course, as a naturopathic doctor, I often approach things from a nutritional standpoint that, what does the body need when we're under more stress? One thing that is important and I think often overlooked is magnesium in terms of, I think anybody would be surprised if they found out what the recommended daily intake, so bare minimum amount of magnesium that we need to be getting in for kids and adults, and that we're probably not coming near close to that. And you need more magnesium when you're under stress. And it's really challenging to get in through a healthy diet. If you're eating a couple of cups of cooked leafy greens every day, you may be getting close to the recommended daily intake of magnesium. Very few people are doing that, and not a lot of kids are doing that.
Welcome to episode 150, the big 150. No pressure, Dr. Kate, here of the Healthy Habit Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Dayan of the Medical Center, and our podcast here represents both Healthy Habit Health Foods and the Medical Center here in Phoenix, Arizona. And our guest here today is an author and naturopathic doctor. Dr. Kate's a graduate and former faculty member of CCNM in Toronto, Ontario, the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine. Dr. Kate lectures internationally on many topics related to health and wellness, and she's a frequent guest on radio and television across North America. She's the author of the best-selling book, Vitamin K2 and the Calcium Paradox, How a Little-Known Vitamin Could Save Your Life. Dr. Kate, welcome back.
Hi, Dr. Dan. Great to be back on the show.
I'm excited to have you back. And so the time of this recording is August 22nd. This will air somewhere September, end of September, but we're setting the stage for the fall season here on today's episode. So back to school just started about 3-4 weeks ago, but what we're going to discuss today is going to apply for the next 2, 3, 4 months heading into the winter. So let's start here. Back to school, prepping for a healthy fall. Dr. Kate, how do you get ready? What are some things to keep in mind as it starts cooling down here?
Yes, and as we get back into the flurry of activity, the busyness of fall, it's never too late to, up your nutrition game. We often will, summer, the schedule goes off the rails a little bit, but now we're back to routine. And so stocking up, first of all, on the kinds of healthy foods we like to have on hand for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or doing food prep in advance. So we're not just ordering takeout or grabbing snacks, and as well stocking up on the types of nutrients and nutritional supplements that we want for, foundational nutritional support, as well as the extra things that we're challenged with at this time of year, like immune support and stress.
Right. So getting our supplement plan in order, getting our food prepping in order, right? Getting ready, right? You want to be prepped and organized. That's the number one thing. Because if we skip a meal, we're way more likely to have a cheat meal, correct?
Exactly, that's right. And I know that when we're under stress and we're busy, it sometimes feels easier to skip a meal or go for the quick, easy, maybe less healthy choice. But in fact, when you're under stress, you need better nutrition. So you want to try to go in the opposite direction, feed yourself better when you're under stress.
So do you have a recommended supplement routine to round out, to kind of put the cherry on top, fill in those nutritional gaps that are common in North America? And again, we're speaking natural factors today. So give us some highlights.
Well, there's a few levels of nutritional supplementation that I think of at this time of year. So starting with foundational nutrition. In other words, these are vitamins, minerals, healthy fats, for example, or other nutrients that we want to get into our bodies on a daily basis, may be challenging through food, especially when you're talking about kids who may be picky eaters, or even, time-crunched adults or university students who, may not be maintaining the healthiest diet. And so what is foundational nutrition? In my books, a multivitamin typically goes a long way in making sure you don't have a shortfall of any essential vitamin or mineral, as well as omega-3 essential fatty acids. They are so important for so many aspects of health, particularly brain health. So with back to school, we want to focus on brain health, but people of all ages, whether it's maintaining healthy cognitive function for the long term, or just making your brain work better right now, we know omega-3s are essential for that. And then, if I want to make it a trifecta, looking at digestion and digestive support,
Hmm.
something like a probiotic usually can help round that out. And, as an added bonus, it works double duty because there's typically some immune benefits with probiotics, which comes in handy this time of year. So those three things would be
Hmm.
kind of on the first level of foundational nutritional support.
Right, students and children going back to school, they have a lot of stomach issues, abdominal pain. Parents have brought their kids here for different, even sports physicals. It comes up that sometimes they get the abdominal pain. So we'll work our way from the last one you mentioned and go the other way. So what would be a good starting probiotic then that is a good starting point that's not necessarily for an emergency use case, but can be used kind of daily basis for teens or even younger?
Yeah. So in addition to trying to get in more fermented foods, if possible, we know those always are, the flavors of those may not agree with picky eaters, or we're not in the habit of eating those in North America. But, fermented foods are an important way to get probiotics in through our diet. But the fact is that, for daily support, there's a couple of options that can go a long way, even and probiotics, their formulas have come a long way. So something like the ultimate probiotic that is a broad spectrum one. This is more for adults. We think of, teens and adults. And so you're looking at, for example, 12 different strains of probiotic bacteria. There are some lactobacillus, some bifidobacterium. So that covers the small and large intestine. And there is a variety of sources of the strains here. So this is, what you think of as a broad spectrum formula. You're showing it right there, the ultimate probiotic 1212.
Yeah.
There's also a double strength 2412. So that's 24 billion live cells in each capsule. And this is a great, I would say, sort of broad spectrum probiotic to cover your bases for, and gut and immune health.
And this is naturalfactors.com, folks. The ultimate probiotic, 12 by 12. No medical advice here. We're talking generalities and what you can look into on your own terms as well. And what we carry here at Healthy Habit Health Foods, the whole purpose of the show is to put these things on your radar that you might have. I bet someone watching this that never heard of even natural factors in the first place, Dr. Kate. So this is a good potential starting point. And a common question, people will come with two different boxes of supplements here, probiotic. One says 100 billion, the other says, in let's say this case, 12 billion. Does this mean it's better because it has 100 versus
Oh,
12?
I'm so glad you asked that, because we often think if a little is good and then more is
Right.
better. That's not uh, necessarily the case. That's rarely the case. And as a matter of fact, if you're just starting out and you've never taken a probiotic before, I usually recommend people start with a lower potency or a simpler formula, because you're introducing more different strains of
Yeah.
beneficial bacteria. Even though they're beneficial, it's something new to your system. And so starting with the simple formula, the very high potency ones, the 55 or 100 billion, typically use those more for people who either have experience with probiotics, and or maybe they're recovering from some kind of illness, or they have been taking antibiotics, have been having side effects, want to replenish their system. But in terms of general support for gut and immune health, you really can't beat this. It's still quite a comprehensive formula with 12 different strains in it.
Yeah.
But it surprisingly doesn't take 100 billion or more to make a difference in your digestion.
Right. More does not mean better in this case, as true for a lot
Mm.
of other things as well. This is, by the way, that's the total active cell count, is what I was referring to. The TACC, the total active cell count, with 24 billion in this case. And then again, there is the 20, here we go, the 12 billion option as well. Natural Factors Ultimate Probiotic 12 by 12 formula. And here you go. In this case, the total active cell count is 12 billion CFU with the 12 different strains, hence the 12 by 12. So, what exactly is it going to be helping with a probiotic, like calming down inflammation in the gut, helping us digest food better? What are some of your top things when you're explaining to someone why a probiotic is helpful?
Oh my goodness. You could speak all day about
I
that and
know.
have
We
weekend
only have
long
20 minutes,
seminars.
Dr. Kate.
Like, okay, I'll try to keep it simple. So yes, we're adding beneficial bacteria. We know the microbiome has a balance of beneficial to potentially harmful bacteria. The good guys crowd out the bad guys and keep them in check. Things like stress, poor diet, certain medications, even things in your tap water can potentially
Right.
affect the good bacteria. So topping those up through fermented foods and or a probiotic supplement, really important. When you have good bacteria in, especially in the colon, they will produce what are called postbiotics, things like short chain fatty acids. I won't get too technical, but beneficial compounds, which then go and have an effect on the entire body. These have also been shown to have a beneficial effect on what's called the gut-brain axis. So that connection between how we think and feel between our guts and our brains. That's also beneficial. It also can, help with things like regularity in terms of digestion. For some people, it can help with gas and bloating. There's all kinds of benefits related strictly to digestion and the digestive tract, as well as beyond and immune support.
Right, and then we have research on ADHD children who they compare it to a kid that doesn't have that, better focus, better grades in school, better ability to pay attention. Their microbiomes differ. They've done samples, stool samples, and they look at, you want to hit on that a little bit, and then we can bring in how that helps with focus potentially, getting on a good probiotic.
Very much so. This is such a fascinating topic, and there have been shown to be differences in the microbiomes, or again, that composition of healthy and unhealthy bacteria in the guts of kids with regular cognition and brain function versus those with things like ADD, ADHD,
Right.
these conditions. And so that's thought to be one factor. One of the many things that healthy bacteria can do, if you have them in there, is produce neurotransmitters. Actually, we talk about neurotransmitters as being brain chemicals, but many of these are produced in the gut and can have a calming, focusing effect on adults and kids. And so, yes, for kids with learning challenges, healthy, nutrition is important. Healthy digestion, but as well, topping up the good bacteria is a great idea.
Well, that was kind of a one thing that we can do for my next question. But how else can we support their cognition during classes? This can apply to kids, K through 8. We can go, or here in middle school. We don't have middle school in Canada, right, Dr. K? Or do we?
No, most of the
No,
places we don't know, but
no,
I've
right.
got a son in that
I
age
didn't think so.
range.
Right.
There's lots of kids who struggle. They wouldn't necessarily be classified as having a learning disability, ADD, ADHD, but struggling with the focus and concentration. And you see that at all ages, right? Like high school, even university students, especially. There's trends of people taking prescription medications that are not prescribed to them to help with focus and concentration. And so I wish more people knew that there are wonderful nutrients that can really help the brain focus and concentrate more and better, as well as relieve the jitters that can be associated with this stressful back to school time or a big exam coming up.
Right.
So something like PharmaGABA, for
Okay.
example. Love this, especially for university students. I have a son going into college, and he always has this with him. He's not particularly anxious, although it works well for kids with nervousness or anxious thoughts and feelings, but just to focus and concentrate when life gets really busy. A chewable tablet like that. It won't cause drowsiness, although it does help improve sleep quality because it helps with that busy brain that can happen. And I just really love this for students and adults, in terms of focus and concentration. I really wish more people knew about how helpful that can be.
And we're doing another screen share here, naturofactors.com. Here's PharmaGABA. You mentioned your son is in university? Oh, very
Yes.
nice. Congrats.
Yeah,
That's
going into
cool.
university, which is an exciting time, but it's a busy, stressful time.
Of course.
But he's very familiar with this and has been using it throughout high school, especially when exams may come around, and he wants to be able to calm and focus his mind, as well post gaming. It's
Okay.
late, they're tired and wired, the
Right.
brains are going, and they need a way to calm down. Again, it doesn't cause drowsiness, but it's the GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid, is the brain's primary inhibitory, which means calming neurotransmitter. This is something that we make ourselves naturally from
Uh-huh.
good bacteria. You can get a little bit of it in certain types of foods, but not to the concentrated extent that we have here in the PharmaGABA, which is, like it says, a fast-acting way to just mentally relax and focus.
And you can see there's different doses, folks. 100 milligram, 250, depending on what's going on. You might, if you've never used it, maybe start with the 100. How is this different from melatonin, Dr. K? A lot of people are saying I'll take it as long as there's no melatonin in there. For some reason, people are avoiding melatonin, but how is this different? Are they combined in here?
Interesting. No melatonin in here
Okay.
whatsoever. Melatonin does cause drowsiness, can only be taken at nighttime, and a lot of people, don't react well to that.
Yeah.
So is definitely melatonin free. It can be taken at any time during the day, and for calming them and focusing the mind. But again, when it's taken at night, if you are tired but your brain won't stop, it helps your brain to calm down, so your natural tiredness can take over. Also great for studying, but definitely no melatonin in here.
Perfect. Again, that's PharmaGABA. GABA, that stands for gamma aminobutyric acid. And what is that as a neurotransmitter? Tell us a bit more about that. And then I want to dive into next topic on the list here.
Yeah, it's a natural amino acid. You can get this in very small amounts in certain types of fermented foods, kimchi, sprouted brown rice, for
Okay.
example, not things that people are eating in large amounts usually. And we also do make this in the gut when you have very healthy gut bacteria. And it's
Mm.
actually the GABA produced in the gut that can send messages to the brain to help calm you down. But in this source here, the PharmaGABA is different from other GABAs on the market. Synthetic GABAs can have unpredictable effects for some people. They don't always either respond well to it or don't get the benefits they're looking for. This PharmaGABA is unique, and it's produced through a fermentation process. And that has years, decades at this point of research behind it to show it has a very consistent effect, and it's very safe.
Perfect. So if you just go to naturalfactors.com, folks, and then you just type in the top left there, there's a little magnifying glass search bar. Type in Pharma GABA, and that's PHARMA, and you'll see not only the standalone Pharma GABAs, but you'll also see the Mind Retreat formula through the Stress Relax line, as well as their nighttime mag bisglycinate, which has the melatonin, the GABA, and L-theanine. Some people do fantastic with melatonin, right? It's not just good or bad. Some people don't have any drowsiness at all, and it works really well with them. There's some interesting anti-cancer research being done, anti-tumor research being done on melatonin. So depends on what the person needs, what they're looking for. So back to school is a stressful time, Dr. Kate. We want to talk about some, and there is a nice blog post here as well on Natural Factors, 8 effortless tips to manage family and work stress. Some of that can apply to back to school stress. So tell us about this. How can we prep for that hectic time, back to school, getting back into that rhythm, waking up early, studying, exams, all that? How can we prepare for this? Some good tips?
Plus after school activities and fitting it
Right.
all in, parents driving around like crazy to get everybody to their
Yeah.
events on time. And we can plan as well as possible, try to keep the calendar and schedule filled, but it's simply the busyness. And, of course, as a naturopathic doctor, I often approach things from a nutritional standpoint that, what does the body need when we're under more stress? One thing that is important and I think often overlooked is magnesium. In terms of, I think anybody would be surprised if they found out what the recommended daily intake, so bare minimum amount of magnesium that we need to be getting in for kids and adults, and that we're probably not coming near close to that. And you need more magnesium when you're under stress. And it's really challenging to get in through a healthy diet. If you're eating a couple of cups of cooked leafy greens every day, you may be getting close to the recommended daily intake of magnesium. Very few people are doing that, and not a lot of kids are doing that.
Mm.
And it can be such a game changer for feelings of stress, sleep quality, any student, especially kids of any age who are in sports. Absolutely, magnesium is wonderful for sore muscles, muscle cramps, just so challenging to get in enough magnesium through diet alone for active individuals and stressed individuals.
Right. And so what would be maybe a good starting point? The bisglycinate, what would you offer? Capsule, powder? There's different
Mhm.
options here at Natural Factors.
There are different options, and that's really a personal preference. I find the capsules are very convenient, but with the bisglycinate form, it's a larger molecule, and so it can be hard to fit it all in a capsule, or a capsule becomes very large. This is where the powder comes in. It's very pleasant tasting, easy to mix into any, water or any drink, throw it in a smoothie, something like that. And of course, with kids, they find drinking something often easier than a large capsule. So I really like the magnesium bisglycinate powder for that reason. And the bisglycinate tends to be more gentle on digestion. And so that's a big bonus for the bisglycinate form.
There's also through the Regenerlife line here, it looks like the targeted magnesium, the L-threonate, which may be even more specific to studying, not necessarily stress. But talk about that a little bit, the differentiation there
Yes.
with bisglycinate and threonate.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because this is definitely a brain health nutrient. So, magnesium L-threonate is a form of magnesium or magnesium bound, you could say, to a carrier molecule that helps carry it into the brain cells across the blood-brain barrier, gets into the brain, and has been shown to raise levels of magnesium in the brain. This, in turn, has been shown to increase what's called synaptic density, so the connections between our brain cells. And I think anybody would probably benefit from more connections between brain cells, but certainly students, people who are trying to learn at any age. This is essentially a brain-specific, you could say, or brain-targeted form of magnesium. That's the L-threonate.
Yep, awesome. So we've hit on probiotics, we even hit on magnesium and GABA, and these can all potentially be related, right? If you get on a good probiotic and start improving that microbiome health, maybe you'll start producing more GABA, correct?
Very much so. Yes, that is the case. It won't necessarily have the same immediate calming effect
Sure.
as taking a chewable tablet of GABA, but that's about your overall, nervous system balance because you're producing better neurotransmitters in your gut.
Right. And this is episode 150, folks, with Dr. Kate Rhéaume, and we were talking about back to school and just getting ready for the fall in general, prep, getting that immune system ready, but especially for students to help them focus, help with the studies, and all the stress that comes with coming back to school. So, what about immune system support? People are still getting COVID, to this day, even at the time of this recording, August 22nd. When is it too early right now to start thinking about immune support, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, lately it seems like it's never too early to
Right.
think about immune support. Of course, we don't think about it as much in the summertime, but definitely, there's a few reasons that at this time of year, the days are getting shorter, which means less vitamin D. Our vitamin D levels are going down. People are spending more time indoors. Of course, kids are in classrooms, so they're, sharing germs and spreading things. That's a normal part of this time of year. And so a few basics that, arguably I could have included as part of nutritional foundational nutrition, vitamin D. There are literally receptors for vitamin D right on the cells of our immune system. And so that indicates how important they are for our immunity. That first line of defense, what's called the innate immune system. So all those cells that show up when you first encounter a new bug, a new virus, for example, maybe one that you haven't encountered before, or one that has changed a lot since you last encountered it. These guys are the first line of defense, and vitamin D acts directly on them to make them work better and more efficiently. So, and it's so inexpensive that there's really no good reason not to have at least vitamin D in your cupboard for, immune support.
All right, especially as it's not going to be as sunny here soon, right? As we get deeper into the fall and winter. So, what are your thoughts on tanning beds? Are you for that? Does it depend on the ratios? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not a huge fan of
Yeah.
those, and I think the amount of time you have to spend in them, and then the skin damage potentially that you're undergoing for the vitamin D levels. And I don't even know what the cost of them are, but you
Yeah.
really can't beat a vitamin D supplement in terms of efficiency and a budget-friendly way to get your vitamin D levels up. That does so much for us.
Right. Okay. And since you're the author of Vitamin K2 and the Calcium Paradox, how a little known vitamin can save your life, what are your thoughts on combining vitamin D with K2 or taking it by itself? We have both options with natural factors. How do we approach that?
One of the things that happens when you take vitamin D is that your body upregulates vitamin K2 dependent proteins. And so in fact, you can get the most out of your vitamin D by combining it with vitamin K2. And this is a nutrient that will take calcium. So when we take vitamin D, it causes us to absorb more calcium. But then vitamin D has no control over where that calcium goes. It may end up in your bones, or it may end up possibly some of it in arteries and soft tissues, places where we don't want it. Vitamin K2 takes care of that and directs the calcium into the bones and teeth and out of and away from the arteries. And so that really is the best of both worlds to get the most out of your vitamin D safely.
So ideally combine them, right? So that's
Mhm,
how it works in nature, right? They actually
mhm.
do work together, so it makes sense to do the combination.
Yeah.
Okay, unless your doctor specifically wants you on like a standalone high dose, some physicians do that, but that will probably be a prescription anyways, so always
Mhm.
talk with your doctor at the end of the day. Again, this is educational and just trying to show you some options, folks. Dr. Kate, what's a good recap here, take home for our customers? We're talking natural factors here with Dr. Kate Rhéaume, getting you ready for the fall and winter months ahead. What's a good take home?
That there's so much that we can do at this time of year in the face of stress and greater challenges to our immune system. Those layers of nutritional, foundational nutritional support like a multi, omega, and probiotic. And then looking at specific support for immune support, a vitamin D falls into there, or whether it's concentration, focus, or feelings of nervousness due to the extra stress, looking at things like PharmaGABA and magnesium, wonderful, calming mineral to help keep us relaxed in the face of stress.
Yeah, we definitely hit on some heavy hitters today with the mag, the probiotics, GABA, all really strong evidence based options. So,
Mhm.
where can people find out more about you or natural factors, or how can they stay in the loop after this?
People can reach me at my website, which is www.drkateND for naturopathicdoctor.com, or check out www.naturalfactors.com to learn more about the specific nutrients that we were discussing.
Dr. Kate, I appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care.